Welcome to another episode of Off-Road Hub. My name is Ken. Today I've gone south a little bit in New Mexico. I'm now just south of a town called Truth or Consequences, which got its name from a 1950s radio show. Look it up on Wikipedia. It's pretty interesting. Kind of an unusual name for a town. Anyways, I'm here doing some of these chili challenge trails. Chili as in the vegetable, because growing chilies in New Mexico, or I don't know if they grow them. They probably do. Chilies are a big deal in New Mexico. So the trail I'm doing today is called the Narrows. It is a level 6 out of 10, a hard level 6 it says, and it looks like it might be. Some fun obstacles coming. Let's go see if we can make it. This was the first Chili Challenge trail I attempted, and I wasn't familiar with the backstory of these trails. I was surprised how overgrown the trail was, so I actually walked a pretty good portion of the trail just to see if it was actually still a usable trail. The story is that these trails are primarily used once a year for the actual Chili Challenge event. The rest of the time, they see very little use, which is the reason for the excessive overgrowth. Alright, I can see where this trail gets its name, the Narrows. It's getting pretty narrow, and it gets even more narrow up there. Here's our first little obstacle right here, and then into the really narrow part of the trail. That was a little harsh. Just put a tiny little ding on the back corner of the bumper there. But hey, that's what it's there for, right? There were a few sections of this trail that looked like this. Just a constant off-camber and always to the passenger side. All the squeaking is coming from my skid plates. Sometimes they get tweaked just right so they rub each other or the frame. My passenger front wheel didn't want to climb a rock, so I used my front locker here to give it the motivation it needed to get me up and over. You'll see here that my driver's front wheel was getting pretty light, so the open differential wasn't sending any power to the passenger side, which had all the traction. This next obstacle, I believe this is called the Fangs, and for good reason. These rocks are really, really sharp here. Edges like this, and up here, just really sharp edges, and the whole thing is just kind of, it looks kind of slanted, but I think I can just go straight up it. We'll see. Well, I didn't tear a sidewall open on that one, so I'll call that a win. Next is a pretty good series of waterfalls, starting with this little one. It's got another sharp rock right there, waiting to take out a tire, if I'm not careful. This next obstacle I think is going to be by far the trickiest. There's a really pretty bad rock field leading up to it, up to a pretty big wall over there. I think there's really two options here. You could go straight up the wall, which I think I'm going to do, or go over here and straddle this V, but that looks a little bit riskier, so I think I'm just going to go straight up the wall. All right, that wasn't too bad. I made it. It's always a relief to make it over a big obstacle, especially when you're, by yourself, which I don't recommend. Here's what it looks like closer up. It's pretty intense. And then climb up this wall here. And that's what it looks like from the top. So that's a pretty good obstacle, I would say. Pretty good. Pretty rough entrance to it too. I had thought that that last obstacle was going to be the most challenging part of the trail, but there was a ton of trail yet to come, and there was no shortage of big rocks. I paused right here because I saw this nasty rock right here that I don't want in the middle of the vehicle. I guess I can probably go passenger and go around it, because that'll definitely hang me up. Going passenger here didn't seem obvious from the driver's seat coming into this because it looked extremely off camber. It turned out to be only moderately off camber, so it worked. You can really see the overgrowth here. Workers come and clear the trails a little bit once a year right before the Chile Challenge event. The rest of the time, nature takes over. As you can see here, I'm climbing out of this wash, or arroyo, and there's a few more rocks in my way. The boulders on this trail were about as large as the FJ could handle. I'm sure having a spotter would be helpful, but there weren't that many line choices. I think my driver's front wheel was in the air again for just a second here. I'm turned hard driver here, trying to avoid body damage from that big rock on the passenger side. The FJ likes getting hung up on the rear link brackets. It was either those or the rear differential here, I'm not sure which. Turning passenger put the rear end on a slightly different path, which cleared whatever it was. Again, based on this vegetation, I'd say it's pretty safe to say this trail doesn't get a lot of traffic, which in a wash type trail is a little scary. Hopefully I don't run into anything further up the trail that's totally washed out that has destroyed the trail, because obviously there aren't a bunch of people coming up here and regularly using this trail. So I think every time somebody comes up here, they might find something new. A little off camber again here. This whole time I've been climbing out of the arroyo, and you can now see pretty far off into the distance. One last little step out of the wash. Well, that does it for the Narrows Chile Challenge Trail. I think it was a fun trail. It obviously doesn't get a lot of use, but it should get more. But I guess, you know, it's kind of in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico, so there aren't a ton of people out here. It's right off of Interstate 25, just south of Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, as I said at the beginning of the video. But still, Truth or Consequences, which is hard to say for me, isn't a very big town. You can see over here Interstate 25 and opens up into this big nice valley here. So I highly recommend it if you're in New Mexico. I hope you enjoyed coming along. If you did, give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already, so I can take you on a new adventure every Monday and Thursday, and we'll see you next time.